position on top. Because Luxon has actively said no. I think if Labour says yeah, it would just look good optically. They need to like say yes, we'll work with them.
Beneficiary with the universal
or at least we're willing to.
The Prime Minister in Auckland mingling with farming leaders at the Primary Industries Summit.
There's nothing more important for New Zealand than our primary industry sector.
But more evidence today of the regions in strife. One of Northland's 2 timber mills has failed to find a buyer and is set to close with 60 jobs on the line. The Workers' First Union says it would be the 7th major wood processing site lost under the current government.
And that's really why failed Labor Green's energy policy was unacceptable.
Never mind, man.
And cause huge damage to low and middle income working New Zealanders. That is a major problem where, when you have an ending to the oil and gas ban, we don't have gas for our mills and our heavy industry.
Energy costs are a big part of it, but it's certainly not because of anything that Labor has done.
The mill's Japanese owner, Jukin, told us the proposal reflects challenging market conditions, including falling demand in key markets, rising costs, and insufficient work to keep the mill operating sustainably.
They've never once reached out to me as the Regional Development Minister seeking a rescue package.
But it's happening under the Coalition's watch.
Okay, Zane, there's tension brewing between ACT and New Zealand First. What can you tell us about that?
Sam, it relates to health and safety law reforms being led by Brooke Van Velden, the Workplace Relations Minister and of the ACT Party, with the intention of reducing the burden of compliance on businesses that are considered to be low risk. But there has been some pushback from the likes of relatives of the victims of the 2010 Pike River mine tragedy, who seem to fear that reducing regulations could just lead to another workplace accident. And Winston Peters has listened to them and declared that those reforms will be, quote, dead on arrival. He says he'll be reluctantly voting for those changes through Parliament to maintain stability within the coalition, but he says those changes will be, quote, fixed after the election. And that's earned him a rebuke from the ACT Party, accusing New Zealand First of politicking. But Sam, Winston Peters also commented today on the rise of the Opportunity Party, dismissing them, saying they're a party of consultants, adding to the Prime Minister's earlier dismissal of the Opportunity Party, saying he hasn't given them any serious thought.
Okay, Zane, thank you. Well, Opportunity Party leader Kule Wong is with us now. Kia ora, Kule. So what do you make of those comments from Winston Peters and Christopher Luxon? I mean, Luxon's effectively dismissing your party and saying that a vote for you looks like a vote for Labor and the Greens. Is he right?
I think that this exactly exhibits what's wrong with politics in New Zealand at the moment, this real tribalism and spending more time trying to tear each other down than focus on the policies and the ideas that can take New Zealand forward.
Okay, so is it your goal, though, do you want to replace Winston Peters and become the person who decides the next government and the next Prime Minister?
We just want to be a constructive party in Parliament, whether that's a Labor-led or a National-led government. That's our focus. Is we've got some big, bold policy ideas. We appreciate we might not get them all across the line, but we want to work with the big parties to do things for New Zealand that are going to improve their lives over the next couple of decades.
Okay, first you've got to get into Parliament, and Opportunity has failed to do so, I think, for the last 3 elections. So you're on 4.6% in this latest poll. It is so close, but can you meet that 5% threshold?
It is very exciting. We've still got 4 months to go, more than 4 months. So, we're going to continue working really hard. We're not taking our foot off the accelerator. We've got a lot more to give, and it's a really exciting race.
Okay, a lot of positivity there. I mean, of course, the other way to do it is if you don't reach the 5%, you win an electorate seat. You're standing in Mount Albert. It has been held by Labor for 80 years by the leaders like Helen Clark and Jacinda Ardern. Would you do a deal in a seat like that, or do you think you can win it outright?
We are going for winning it outright. We're not looking to do a deal. We're here to keep both sides accountable, and so doing a deal would jeopardise that. We wouldn't be going for it if we didn't think we could win, and I think Mount Albert is looking for a new leader and a new party.
Okay, we'll keep a close eye on it. So what does Opportunity stand for? If you do make it into Parliament, what's the first thing you would like to get done?
We've got a few priorities that we're bringing into this. Things like a long-term energy strategy, building an economy that looks after the environment and communities, one that's actually innovative and productive. That requires some big changes, but we want to work constructively across the political spectrum to make those changes stick rather than flip-flopping back between left and right.
Yeah, I wonder if Opportunity is trying to be a little bit like Peter Dunn's party was back in the day, a common sense party that could work with either side. Yeah. Is that where you're sort of trying to place yourself?
I guess you could make that comparison. I think there's also other more mature MMP environments overseas where you see a lot more cross-pollination of ideas and different parties working together on these things. I think it's quite unusual, actually, that we have this real left bloc and a right bloc in New Zealand politics.
Not really that unusual. Like at least liberal politics, like 95% of the issues in the country, like we all agree upon, whether you're a National Labour voter, it's just like this 5% we fight to the death on. That's the reason why, like, the parties don't exist because like we've just like willed them to existence. They exist for a reason. Like I just said, I hate centrists. I think to a degree they're morally corrupt. No, that's actually too far. But like, yeah, just if you believe in something, you should stand 10 toes down on it. I don't like this whole thing. Like, I'm a centrist, therefore I'm morally superior to you. No, that's some bullshit.
31 VI.
It is 29 minutes past 7 o'clock, Thursday the 25th of June. With William Teresi. Pleasure as always to be in your company. Now, the latest One News variant poll has the Opportunity Party sitting just shy of the 5% threshold at 4.6%. A new analysis from the Herald's poll of polls out this morning suggests the party's chances of making it into Parliament are growing. So if it can get across the line in November, it could ultimately, fundamentally, reshape the political landscape. We're joined now by the leader, Kule Wong, to discuss.
I just realised I think I have some cheese. I'll be back again. I'm back.
The momentum. A very good morning to you. Thanks for your time.
Whatever.
I mean, you're seeing a real surge in support. Why are people backing Opportunity?
I think we're really seeing more and more Kiwis resonate with our message, which is that we don't need more of this flip-flop. We actually need a stable, consistent approach to politics going forward and bringing our big parties together on the big things that really matter to the next couple of decades.
With that being said, are you frustrated with the way in which the two major parties seem to be conducting themselves? You know, they're not that eager to work with Opportunity yet.
Not yet. I mean, in some ways, I can understand it that the polling maybe hasn't been high enough for them to register, but I would say now it is probably worth them paying some more attention and thinking about what that future might look like.
Dare I ask, is it almost arrogance by both Labour and National? I mean, you're literally on the precipice. You're on nearly at the 5% threshold. Surely the conversations should be had now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real indication of where our politics is at in New Zealand. It's become very tribal, and so there's a lack of trust, I think, on both sides to try and work with new ideas and new parties. But we are out here trying to earn the trust both of Kiwi voters and also politicians in Parliament to say that we're here to work constructively with you.
The Green Party as well said that they like the sound of some of your policies. It almost sounds like their own policies. What do you say to that? And to the right that says that you almost seem more centre-left.
I think there's a few differences with us and the Greens. There's definitely a lot of similarities in terms of environmental protection. I'd say we are more focused on innovation and helping businesses be part of the solution than perhaps the Greens are. And I think the key difference is
definitely
we're willing to work across the political spectrum. So whether it's a national-led or a Labour-led government, we would be in there trying to prioritise environmental issues.
Sure. We've seen, for our Pacific community in particular, we've seen New Zealand First making a real...
Like, Top is literally just a less economically retarded version of the Greens. And I can respect that. Because one thing that shocked me from, like, actually liking the Greens as a party is how stupid their economic policy can be sometimes.
play for Pacific votes. Labour's always traditionally been the home for Pacific voters. Why should they perhaps consider, say, the Opportunity Party?
Yeah, and I think it was awesome that you had Romeo, one of our candidates, on recently as well. I think that we've got support from across all kinds of communities, Pacifica, Māori, migrant communities, and they're all coming to us because we are framing, I guess, the cost of living issues and our economic issues in a different way. Yes, it's about providing relief so that things are more affordable. It's also about creating a more exciting economy that's going to create high-wage jobs and reasons for people to be here. And I think a lot of that is at the heart of what Pacific communities stand for, is, you know, running amazing, innovative businesses that look after communities and people and put them at the heart of things. And that's really what we're here to champion.
What do you make of the fact that Opportunity as a party, unlike, say, the rest of, say, minor parties at the moment, you know, New Zealand First was born out of, you know, moving away from National. Te Pāti Māori was former Labour MPs. I mean, Opportunity in many ways is fresh.
Yeah, I think that lack of political baggage is helpful for us because we can think differently about things. We approach problems differently, and I think that that's what's needed in politics. Yes, we've got some big, bold policy ideas, but we're also bringing a fresh approach to how we do politics. And I think people around the world are starting to see that we can't fight extremism with more extremism. We've actually got to be a bit more pragmatic and try and find that common ground. Otherwise, it's just not going to be enjoyable for everyone, and I think it makes things worse.
On the flip side of that, then, also, one would argue there's a lack of political experience. What do you say to that?
I think that political experience hasn't necessarily always done us any favours in New Zealand. Career politicians aren't solving the problems that we have.
That's wrong. I love her. She's my queen. When it comes to tax policy, this is stupid. All right, it is the people who don't have political experience that completely tank the nation. Luxon being the best example.
In front of us. I think that I bring, and a lot of our candidates bring, some excellent skills that would be very valuable in Parliament, particularly this bridge building, kind of working across different perspectives. I've certainly done that in my career in business, working in sustainability, challenging the status quo, but trying to bring others along. I think that's what we will bring to Parliament.
What's one policy for our Pacific listeners that would really align with them, do you think?
I think that the citizens' voice is a really interesting one because it puts the voice of communities at the heart of decision making. So whether that's done at a local level in Pacifica communities or done at a national level and elevating the voices of those people in our big decisions, I think that's it's a Pacifica or Māori Indigenous approach to decision making, which is quite different from this adversarial Westminster style of politics that has dominated the last few decades. So I hope that they see that that has come from and born from a lot of the values that they represent.
Could you, obviously, both Labour and National aren't keen to wait into it just yet, but is Opportunity keen to work with, say, other parties like the ACT Party and the Greens?
So our priority focus is really on Labour and National. We think it's important given that they hold the majority of the votes. And yes, it has been going down in recent years, but that's still the majority of New Zealanders. And I think it's important that we work with them as a priority because that will get our most progress for New Zealand. We're not closed-minded to working with some of the other minor parties, and I'm sure that that's going to be necessary. But our focus is primarily to negotiate with Labour or National first.
What about Gen Z voters like me? What's your pitch to us?
So I get this question a lot, and it's amazing. We've even had 16-year-olds coming along to our events and asking about what we're going to do for them. And I wish I could say I've got a magic wand and I could completely change life for you.
They've got 16-year-olds coming to their events. Pause.
In the next year. In reality, I think that the biggest promise that we're making to young voters is that we are setting a more aspirational vision for the future of this country that is worth staying here and studying for. And, we're going to invest in the businesses and the entrepreneurship that I think those young people want to be a part of, businesses that look after the environment and people and communities. And so I think if that's a future that young people want for New Zealand, that is absolutely the one that we are committed to building, and we want to build it with them.
Chris's are a bit of a snooze fest. Is this the election year, do you think, going to be defined by the Opportunity Party?
I certainly think we are bringing a new narrative to politics, and it feels like New Zealanders are ready for that. So it's been really encouraging, absolutely recently, to see that reflected in the polls. And we've still got 4 months to go. So we are continuing to work extremely hard to get out there in communities and be the best representative we can be for those people.
Yeah, I mean, that's the final question for you. How do you ensure that you continue that momentum? Ultimately, people don't flock elsewhere.
Yeah, I think we've been working really hard over the last 6 months to build the engine that we need to get us through this election period. We've got 43 awesome candidates around the country, so it's really about getting them out and speaking to communities and making sure that we are getting our message across and being really simple and clear about what we are offering to voters for this election.
Opportunity Party Leader Kilo Wong, pleasure to chat.
531
You're listening to Pacific Mornings on 531 PI, 15 minutes past 7 o'clock. William Tracy giving you company this hour. Labour's taken a 5-point hit in the latest One News variant poll, dropping to 32% as National also slipped slightly to 29%. It's a result that puts the two major parties at their weakest combined showing in decades. We're joined now by the party's Deputy Leader, Carmel Sepuloni, to react to that, plus much more. Talofa Lava, pleasure to chat as always.
Talofa Lava, Will.
What do you make of the poll result? Down 5, your leader's also down 3 points as well in the preferred Prime Minister stakes.
Well, I've said it before, and we say it quite often. Ultimately, the only poll that matters is what happens on election day, November 7th. Well, but I mean, there's some heartening stuff there. The left bloc is doing well. That was a bit of an outlier for us in terms of recent polls. So I think it's important to watch the trend and what you see in polls over a period of time. What has been consistent is National down at 29. That's been consistent for quite some time. So yeah, I think those are the things to watch.
Is your guys' policies that you've come out with just not landing with voters, or dare I say by extension Pacific voters? What do you think?
Oh, they're certainly landing. All the feedback that we've got, particularly I have to say with the public transport cap policy, has been really positive. And I've said publicly, it's not just the workers that I've met up with down at the transport hub who are regularly catching public transport and know what the savings will be for them. Even the high school students who have hot cards, who have parents that regularly top them up, know that this will make a difference for their parents and their family.
Yeah. Look, I mean, this poll also suggests the left bloc would come into power if Te Pāti Māori, by some great miracle, retains their 6 electorate seats. It seems kind of fanciful at this point in time. Would you work with the Opportunity Party?
We're focused on getting as many votes as what we can as the Labour Party.
Yep.
And so that has to be our focus. Also, Willie Jackson, the Labour Party, have been very public about the fact that we are out to win every Māori seat in the country. And so there's no negotiation going on in that space. Certainly we can be collegial across political parties, but we're all fighting for the votes to get re-elected. And so, yeah, the Labour Party is after votes for the Labour Party, and that's what we'll be focused on.
Should you guys not be having that chat already with the Opportunity Party? They're at 4.6%. They're close at the 5% threshold.
Well, it depends what poll you look at, Will. And as I said, ultimately, the only poll that matters...
I heavily believe Labour needs to come out with a strong position on top. Because, National has outright said we're not going to work with them. I think this would be a very good opportunity, optically, to, say, hey, we're a party of, responsible governance, and we're not going to just knock people off because we think that they're politically partisan or whatever.
is what happens on election day in November. So we've got to focus on what our alternative proposition is to the general public and voting New Zealand. We've got to focus on our policies and what we're trying to message and communicate to New Zealanders. We spent the better part of 2 years out and about listening to New Zealand to be able to, I guess, learn from our last experience, but also inform what our offering would be this time around. And now is our opportunity to put that out there.
Old mate Winston Peters was in Labour stronghold territory at the weekend to a massive crowd, some would say surprisingly. What do you make of New Zealand First's rise among Pacific voters coming after the Pacific vote? And is Labour willing to work with them?
Well, I mean, I think the fact of the matter is that New Zealand First doesn't really have that much of a track record with our Pacific community, whereas Labour does. And so, you know, we've always had the representation and been at the forefront of, you know, support for Pacific languages, for Pacific culture, and all of the things that matter, the bread and butter issues. You know, support for workers, support for the cost of living, support for a health system that works for everyone. Those are the things that Labour has been focused on, and those are the things that have benefited or worked in the favour of our Pacific community. At the end of the day, you know, New Zealand First really don't have that same level of track record, but it's a democracy. Well, they have every right to put candidates up from our community. They have every right to go and campaign within those communities, and we'll see what happens on November 7th.
Why won't you guys, well, have you guys actually like completely ruled out working with Winston Peters after this election? Because he's been very cruel and harsh in his assessment of the Labour Party and its leader.
Oh, we've said that we will rule in, rule out closer to the election.
But he doesn't want to work with you guys.
And so, you know, we will put our stake in the ground closer to the election. Winston Peters and other political parties don't get to determine the course of action that we choose to take as a political party. We will put our stake in the ground closer to the election.
All right. And look, the National Party and their KiwiSaver plan, making it compulsory, all that jazz, reaction continues to engulf them with it. What's Labour's view on it?
Well, the fact of the matter is that the National Party have made multiple cuts to KiwiSaver over the course of the life of KiwiSaver when they've been in government. Even this term, you know, we've seen them cut the government contributions back. We saw in 2015 they stopped the Kickstart scheme, which meant that every person that went into KiwiSaver had a $1,000 contribution. And so they just can't be trusted with KiwiSaver. You know, this is one of the Labour Party's legacy policies. Wasn't initially supported by the National Party, and so it's important to put on record that National just simply can't be trusted with KiwiSaver.
And Labour's ruled out any kind of superannuation changes at this year's election, correct?
We have ruled out any changes to superannuation in terms of means testing or lifting the age limit. And when it comes to KiwiSaver, we'll announce our policy in the coming months.
All right, final question for you. Moana Pacifica, its future is decided this week. I mean, look, it's in a tough financial situation. Should we really be saving it? What's your view?
I think it's really hard for those of us that don't have all of the inside details to make a determination on that. I think that it would be fair to say that for those of us that are Pacific, it's been a very sad sight seeing the financial woes and struggles of Moana Pacifica. And if there's a way for them to come out of this and to be able to continue on and build, then that'll be fantastic. But it's really hard to make a determination when we don't have all of the insight into the details behind the scenes.
Carmel Cipollone, leader of the... Deputy leader of the Labour...
I don't care.
There's a really good chance that right now, you, like me, are just feeling,
New questions continue to emerge today over the Justice Department's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files.
just too paralysed, like, the problem's too big.
Very powerful men use their networks with each other to kind of hold on and help each other stay in control.
Like, what can I actually do? It's hopeless. What's heartbreaking and defeating is that you look at what politicians are doing, and they always talk about change, but no change ever happens.
If you want to be in politics, you probably don't want to offend the billionaires. And that's why this thing has been hidden for decades. That's why Democrats and Republicans didn't expose this. Let's just be honest. It wasn't just a Trump thing. There were administration after administration that wanted to protect these people, and they're still protecting some of them.
But fortunately, there's a whole bunch of research to help change that specific feeling of powerlessness. There is a way out of this swamp, a way to quite simply change the world. Yeah. I mean, it's quite a way to start a YouTube video, isn't it? I mean, it's ambitious. I'll give myself that. But I did it, I said it, and I've left it in. Because where we're starting is with the feeling, the paralysis. Because I genuinely used to think that we were all f***ed and there was no hope. I had it on a t-shirt, I had the mug. and that one had a handle. But it was based on this research. In 1967, a psychologist called Martin Seligman ran one of the most famous experiments in the history of psychology. And brace yourself, because this was the 60s, where to be a scientist, all you needed was a white coat and no moral compass. So what Martin did is he put dogs in a box with a low partition in the middle that they could jump over. And on one side of the box, it delivered electric shocks through the floor, but the other side was safe. And dogs placed in the box quickly learned to jump over the partition to escape the shocks, straightforward. But then Seligman did something else. He took a different group of dogs, right? And he put them in a harness beforehand where they received electric shocks and they could not escape. No partition, no way out. They just had to endure it. And then those dogs were put in the box with the partition. But when the electric shocks came through the floor, those dogs didn't jump over the partition. They just took the shocks, even though escape was right there, literally a small jump away. They'd given up. They'd learned that nothing they did matters. And for 50 years, right, that study was just accepted science. And it is true. There is a truth to it. That helplessness is learned. You experience through uncontrollable bad things, and your brain learns to stop trying. It became one of the most cited findings in all of psychology. It shaped how we understand depression, trauma, poverty, political apathy. But then, in 2016, Seligman and neuroscientist Stephen Mayer published a landmark revision in the Psychological Review. So here's what the revised study actually showed. That passivity is not learned. It's the brain's default response to prolonged adverse stimulation. Because prolonged exposure to uncontrollable negative events activates, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, so just accept it, the serotonergic neurons in the dorsal raphe nucleus, which is a brain region that inhibits escape behavior. And it happens automatically. No learning required. It's just what your brain does automatically when it's overwhelmed. But, and this is key, the prefrontal cortex can inhibit the dorsal raphe nucleus, which means your thinking brain can turn off your giving up brain, which is the most useful sentence in neuroscience has ever produced, because your brain doesn't learn helplessness. Helplessness is wired in. It's the factory setting. It's where your brain starts. What has to be learned actively through direct experience is control. And interestingly, if you come from a position of privilege, you learn control very early in your life because you have agency. Whereas if you come from a position of not having much, of poverty, you don't have control in your life. So you do not learn that behavior. Because when an animal or a person experiences that their actions can actually change outcomes, it activates the medial prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex then inhibits the dorsal raphe nucleus. In raphe nucleus. Is it dorsal? It can itself. It overrides the default passivity. So those dogs in 1967, they didn't learn to be helpless. Their brains defaulted to helpless because they'd never learned control. The dogs that jumped the partition, they previously learned through experience that their actions produced results. That learning is what gave them the ability to escape. Not instinct, not personality, learned control. The part that gives me hope, like genuine hope, is this. Baratta, Seligman and Mayer showed in 2023 that once the prefrontal cortex learns control, once you experience that your actions matter, it produces what they call long-term resilience. You don't just overcome helplessness in the moment, you become neurologically resistant to it in the future. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means that the feeling of nothing I do matters is not an observation about reality. It's your dorsal raphe nucleus. F***ing dorsal raphe nucleus. How many times do I have to tell you? It's a c***. It's your dorsal raphe nucleus doing what it evolved to do in response to overwhelming negative information. Your brain is defaulting to passivity because you've been exposed to a massive, seemingly uncontrollable system. So the antidote here isn't more information.